Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and the latest update from the UK general elections. The Labour Party are getting ready to form the next government, but they have some bad news for us. Bad news for every single person watching from the United Kingdom. Over the next few years, we are going to be seeing a number of all areas of the country being filled with illegal migrants and the so-called asylum seekers. They want to spread people around so that every local area and all boroughs could take their fair share of foreign nationals. That's what you have to get used to. In this video, we're going to give you guys all the updates and get your reaction as usual. Let's get on with the show. The narrative of the Labour Party in this campaign continues to change every 12 minutes. 1 minute they come out and say, we have to be compassionate, we need more migration. The next minute they come out and say, well, Keir Starmer says we need a strong and stable border, we will sort out the illegal boats problems and we'll have a stronger border than the Tory government, which is not really a difficult thing to do. The Tories have been so bad that even a monkey could protect the borders better than the Conservative government. But now is another minute. So Angela Rayner, who is slightly more left-wing, let's just say, than Keir Starmer, and she is the deputy leader. She will be deputy prime minister. She's come out to give us a new policy and what the Labour Party are going to be doing with thousands and thousands of migrants who are continuing to come in because they cannot stop them on the 4th of July when they win the election. But this is about taking the fair share. They say new asylum seekers they will be eligible for places in the 1.5 million new social housing and homes that Labour planned to build right across the country. So this isn't just about, there's the two issues with this story. One is the announcement that all local areas, all the boroughs, will be taking in people anyway. They have to. The central government will force them. But there's also the second part of the announcement is about the housing part. So social housing, which is built using people's tax money, British people's tax money. You pay your taxes, they build social housing. They are now going to be prioritizing foreign nationals and migrants over local native Brits. So all the British homeless people, they have to wait longer. And even those who basically are just in the queue to get a new social housing, they have to wait longer, probably another 10-20 years, because we have to prioritize the foreigners over the local people. Now, there's this other issue when it comes to what's been happening until now, because this is, I think, is vengeance from the Labour Party side. When you look at the graphs, so this is the Home Office data and ONS and, of course, the Open Council data, saying that Labour councils house the vast majority of asylum seekers that are not in hotels. So you can see 44,748 for Labour, then you've got 5,098 for the Conservatives and 2,876 for Lib Dems until now. So when they say they want to spread people around, the fair share, so that they could send more migrants to Conservative areas, Liberal areas, so all the countryside, all the small towns, and the green areas and everything else there. So it's not just going to be in Birmingham or London or Leeds or Manchester. They're going to be sending them away so that it could be a bit of punishment as well, because there's a lot of pressure on the Labour local politicians from the local voters. There's also this other graph. The Labour councils also house the most asylum seekers in the hotels. So the whole hotel crisis is still ongoing anyway. And 20,000, of course, over 20,000 of them are in Labour areas, so they want to again send more people to the Conservative areas and Lib Dem areas. This will do two things. One, it will take the pressure from the socialist areas. Two, demographic change, because a lot of the migrants coming from North Africa and the Middle East have a lot of babies. And if you send all of them, for example, to more conservative areas or liberal areas instead of socialist areas, then they're going to have more babies. So within the next 20-30 years, demographic change means that a lot of those conservative areas and liberal areas will also become socialist because they'll be voting Labour. So that's also a very ingenious idea that the Labour Party has. Angela Rayner says every borough has an obligation to take on their fair share of asylum seekers. And the way she's going to be doing it, unlike now, is by using the central government's powers from Westminster to enforce it. Until now, you still had a bit of decentralization. So local authorities will have to decide. So the central government could try to lobby them, saying, have a conversation. The Home Office could meet with local authorities, I don't know, in Luton or wherever they are, in Yorkshire, say, can you please take some more? And they could say no. But now they want to make it mandatory. So all the areas, including, as I said, conservative and liberal areas, will be forced to take more migrants, but also not only migrants, actual social housing should be prioritized for the foreign nationals. She also said, that's what Labour's going to do. And that will cost us a lot less if we process people fairly, humanely, and those that have a right to be here are treated with the respect and dignity that the British people would expect us to do. For people who are genuinely seeking asylum, those that shouldn't be here will be removed. How? So you say those who have a right to be here, if you cross the border illegally from France, not a war zone country, France, a pretty safe and free and democratic place, generally speaking, how are they allowed to be here? Why do they have a right to be here? We already have this issue because the Conservative government, who claim to be in favor of stronger borders, and they were always very vocal, the Tories, saying, and the Home Office, that we'll make sure that we only say yes and approve those who are supposed to be here, right? Then how do you decide? Because people can just lie, and they've been lying the whole time anyway. They suddenly convert to Christianity and they say, well, I can't really be sent back to Pakistan or Afghanistan anymore. But then we discover they still go to mosques. How many examples do you need of these the fraudsters? So that's what Labour is going to basically doing. So they're going to, of course, you've got the left-wing activist lawyers who are going to vote Labour, and they're going to basically brief all their new foreigners, saying basically every single person either convert to Christianity or pretend that you're gay, and then you'll be fine, you get social housing, and British homeless people will have to wait longer. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, in terms of what's been going on right now, until now, look at the map of the country. All these areas are like that. Out of the top 10, for example, areas that house a lot of migrants, majority are Labour, obviously. You can see Bradford, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Coventry, Cardiff, Hounslow, and of course, Southwark. Interesting, Southwark, because you would assume that in London, there will be other parts of London that should have more than Southwark. Southwark is near Waterloo and London Eye and those areas, if you're not familiar. And then you have Hillingdon, which is conservative, right? But Hillingdon is also right next to Hounslow, so it's kind of like the same thing anyway. But the issue with this is that the Labour Party want to basically take the burden away from the socialist areas, give it to non-socialist areas, and in the future those areas will also become socialist, because the migrants will be very, very grateful to the Labour Party, saying, well, they will tell their kids the reason we're here is because of the Labour Party, so always vote for Labour. That's the plan that the Labour Party has, the same plan that Tony Blair had when he was elected in 1997 and formed a new government. Let's go to some of you guys. Indy 1936 says, spreading so-called migrants like a disease or virus across the UK. New lockdown soon, a new pandemic. We have Fat Carly saying, what you mean? What you mean there are areas that haven't been invaded yet? Yes. So, okay, I'm guessing this person is not from the UK. So when you go to small towns and villages near Cornwall, near Devon, even parts of Yorkshire, even Lincolnshire at times, depending on where you go, there are still places that are almost 100% British. But now that's going to change. Comparing to, for example, Birmingham or London or Leeds or Liverpool, wherever. So there are definitely places, Cotswolds, go to Cotswolds, for example, it's everybody is basically just natives, but all that is going to be changing. Tropper says, I don't get all the LGBTQ plus people wanting all the migrants here. Are they that clueless to what will happen to them if this country went Sharia? Well, that's also a very good point. So this Saturday, 2 days from now, we're going to have the London Pride. And we've already had a number of different Pride events across the country, across the world. that have been interrupted by the Islamist side. And the Islamists, the pro-Palestinians, went there to disrupt the event, and they clashed with the LGBT community who were there to celebrate Pride. This is going to happen potentially 2 days from now in London. In fact, in London, 2 days from now, they've essentially cancelled the Jews from being at the LGBT Pride because they said, they can't secure. The police said they can't secure their safety. And but we're also, again, in the future, as this person says, we've already had, when you go to the pro-Palestinian protests, the anti-Jewish protests, when one person takes a pride flag, the others will take the flag and burn it, for example, or just take it away and rip it apart. That is going to continue to get worse. The left will always end up eating itself. Robert says that we should all move to Syria, turn it into a new powerhouse, and this country could be left to them when we long before it's a S-hole like the countries they came from. So, based on obviously Douglas Murray's book in terms of death of Europe and what's happening, as I've been saying, not yet, but over the next definitely 50 years, the demographic change and everything else means, and also the change in terms of the world order, in terms of the powers in the world, means Europe could, unless things radically change now, could potentially be dead. As in, it will no longer be European, which means certain countries will be safer. I'm talking about Western Europe primarily. Certain countries will become safer. Parts of America, potentially, depending on how the civil war will go in America. Obviously, perhaps some places in Eastern Europe or close to Eastern Europe, whether it's Hungary, whether it's Poland, maybe Israel. Of course, those places are small as well, especially Israel. I mean, I'm not expecting everybody from the UK or Germany move to Israel, but on paper, certain places, even potentially speaking by then, Saudi Arabia and UAE and these places and Bahrain will be much safer for secular people and for Christians to move there. And of course, when Iran gets liberated and Lebanon becomes free again, those countries will become probably safer for Christians and atheists and Jews than Western Europe. Another comment says that Labour's goal is to follow the European Union handlers' instructions and put immigrants on every street. You vote socialist, you get a socialist nation. There will be no sympathy from the free world. Sad. I absolutely agree with this comment. HN Media says, no, what she really means is that she will give amnesty and send them to reform UK strongholds to vote for Labour. Yeah, that's exactly what I said as well. This will change the demographic of every constituency going forward. Michael O'Connor says, let the people in the boroughs vote and decide if they want asylum seekers who are really economic migrants. Yeah, if you start doing actual local referendums, at least that's some sort of solution. But I mean, the perfect solution is just to use the central government to stop the immigration flow, close down the borders, just stop it now. You have a lot of people, you need to look after them first in this country, and there's a lot of foreign criminals and illegal migrants that need to be deported, and then you can have a new, fresh, sustainable system based on proper quota, economic migration. If you are talented, if you have something to contribute, then sure, and you have to make sure that you integrate, just like in a normal country that used to be. But right now, it's just open borders for everybody. If you want to come here legally, you'll be in trouble. There are people waiting in the queue from India, from Australia, from Japan, and they have something to offer, but they're not allowed to come because the legal route is so strict because obviously it's been overwhelmed by the other side. Super chat from Dean Lawton. Thank you so much, Dean. And Julie says, Angela Rayner, who's rather partial to other women's husbands, Sam Terry MP, campaigned alongside his heavily pregnant wife whilst allegedly being with her behind her back. Vote reform. The allegations coming from Julie. Of course, 2CTV cannot confirm these things. Another super chat from Frenchie saying, thank you, by the way. After 9/11, Bin Laden said that we will take them from within. And here we are. Literally, Bin Laden and even al-Baghdadi and those guys said, we are going to be sending our soldiers by pretending to be asylum seekers. Get ready. And then everybody in the establishment in the West were like, okay. They either didn't believe them. They said, yeah, fair enough, bring it up. See what happens. And now you have to deal with this mess, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to come back later on and give you guys more updates on what's going on in the country and around the world. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.